You're listening to Music Tectonics.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Music Tectonics, the podcast that explores where music and tech collide and move mountains. I'm your host today, Tristra Newyear Yeager, Director of Strategy at Rock Paper Scissors, the music tech PR firm. Today we're chatting with Wiedre and Kwesi of Airbit, the producer platform that aims to do more than just hawk beats. Airbit was built by a beats producer looking to make producers' lives easier and continues to focus on education and community for its producers and artists. So today we'll talk a bit about creator tools, how producers work, and what changes could make life better for the people who power some of our favorite music, the beatmakers and soundcrafters. Wiedre and Kwesi, thanks so much for joining me today.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, awesome to be here.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So I always love to hear a little bit about what you're up to and how you got there. So if you don't mind, Kwesi, can you give me a little bit of a 1-minute summary of your backstory and how you got to Airbit?
Yeah, sure. My name is Kwesi Albert Lutz-Paap. I'm a producer, also a web designer. How I really got my start in the music industry is through my family. My family's from Ghana, West Africa. I was born here in the States, so I actually was raised there in Ghana for a while, came here back to the States when I was about 2 or 3, and my mom taught me how to speak English through songwriting. And so then I started learning how to play some instruments. And so I was self-taught, but I got mentored by my uncle who cashed out when he came here to the States on credit cards and built a studio. And so my life really grew up. I was really growing up in the studio. So the language and lexicon of the recording industry and just kind of music business is something that I was familiar to from the jump. And then I moved to the Bay Area when I was about 10 or 11 and was just surrounded by a lot of tech. It was the tech boom, the Y2K crash, and just saw a lot of both sides and the two tails of what tech and industry can do. But that just kind of gave me a great sense of what it's like to be an entrepreneur. So growing up, that's what I did. I sold beats in high school, made some money. My mom was so surprised that I was so young, bringing home hundreds of dollars. And so that's kind of like how I had a really good connection with Airbit and kind of beat selling marketplaces and started getting really interested in that world of production. Went to music school, a little bit of art school, and then continued to just work as a designer and web designer and continue to make beats. So, and recently just, got a great sense of connection with Airbit directly and have been working and being a community builder over there. So that's a little bit of my background, how I've gotten to where I'm at today.
I love it. And Wiedre, you also have a really interesting background in working with some bigger tech companies and media companies. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you got to Airbit?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Wiedre, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at Airbit. And yeah, I mean, shortly after college, I moved to New York City and was working for a magazine and had a little startup on the side. We were producing tours for bands. And so it was a small little thing. We worked together as a small group, producing tours for indie rock bands. And one of them ended up being the Killers. And so my business partner ended up going with the Killers on tour, and he hasn't looked back since. He's still with them. So it kind of threw the band out of sorts, meaning my company out of sorts, and we ended up splitting ways. And that's when I got into digital publishing. I worked for a number of companies selling ads and building teams to monetize companies or brands like Stereo Gum and Hype Machine and a bunch of different music brands, which led me to becoming an executive at Mashable, which was a really large publisher similar to BuzzFeed. And then from there, I went and became an executive at Fender, went back to my music roots. And then from Fender, I ended up moving over to Airbit and became a partner of the company with Wasim, who is the original founder. And yeah, we've been building Airbit together for the past 3 going on 4 years. And I wanted to just kind of pull this note out, how Kwesi and I met, because I think it's interesting. Is Kwesi randomly reached out to me on LinkedIn. He had feedback for me about Airbit, and I was so impressed with the feedback. I followed back up. We hopped on a call, talked for a really long time, and next thing you know, Kwesi is now part of the Airbit family. So these are how these things work. I think just the way Airbit came together has been really through just people taking the initiative and really smart people providing interesting ideas. So just wanted to kind of throw that little tidbit out there.
That's great. And that kind of feedback back is a huge gift. And it's wonderful when you can accept that gift in the spirit it's given, right? And start a real productive conversation. That's amazing. Okay, well, let me ask you the first question. I kind of want to lay some groundwork for listeners who may not be completely familiar with how the beats world works. What does production look like today? How do you guys imagine what the different approaches are, the different kinds of producers out there, and what's the workflow like? Does it differ among genres or subgenres? Just give us a roadmap.
Well, I want to defer this to Kwesi because I want to set the stage. I am not a music producer, and Kwesi absolutely is. He's an amazing music producer. So Kwesi, will you take this?
Oh yeah. Oh, I can go for days on this, but I'm going to
Great.
try to be like succinct.
Well, even if a 5-hour-long podcast, that's cool. That works.
Okay, cool. As long as we got bathroom breaks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot there. That's a pretty loaded question.
Yeah.
And it's like, what does production look like today? And it's kind of, these are kind of like general concepts, but I could speak from my experience and just kind of what I see as a landscape for production and producers today. And in comparison to what I've seen for the past years, me growing up, it was like the Jay-Z Black Album, where you saw super producers like Pharrell and Kanye and Just Blaze and Timberland all in the studio with Jay-Z making an amazing album. And that was where I was introduced to the idea that producers were also brands and producers are also artists because they make artists who they are. It's a combination of two different artists. And sometimes we look at performing artists as just the artist when it's really a combination of a team that brings out who they are. And so that was like my first introduction to understanding that producers can make a lot of money. They're always behind what makes these artists who they are, like who's behind the beat. And today we're seeing this evolution of creators and in kind of like the older model of the music business. It's like you hire a producer, you find a producer that can produce something. They pretty much get a few points and they get their composition royalties or what have you. But now we're seeing kind of this turn to the creator economy. And so, I mean, with the birth of like YouTube and Instagram and social media platforms, you start to see influencers start to create their own content. And we forget that music production truly is the content in which a vocal performer needs that content in order to create their content. Acapellas don't sell as much as the full songs. And so this evolution to the new producer economy is really it's really the creator economy that it's evolving towards. And I think that's why Airbit's so important and for producers to not only monetize themselves, but to see themselves as a business. Sometimes it's when you're a producer, you have a manager, you have representation, you can sign to a label, but this is kind of the independent creator economy that's happening. And now people are starting to look at their beats different. They're looking at their beats the way that a YouTube creator looks at their content. It's yours, and to lease it out or create a license for it is extremely important. The workflow like today is the producer world is really like you want to expand who you are. So it's not just about the beats you create, it's about the sound. It's about what is your sound and how much have you worked on your craft to putting you in a position to where you can create sound packs or little sample packs, some of your throwaways that you might not feel like can be a full beat. Someone else can be inspired by that. So creating a sound kit to share with other people and collaborate is kind of where the workflow is. Like, it's more than just your beats, like it's your expression and your sound. And so, like, there's so many different approaches that producers can take in this current digital age that expands who they are as an artist and as a content creator. And we're seeing examples of that with like lo-fi hip hop, and you checking videos of producers that are also YouTube personalities, and they're capitalizing on it by being who they are out and showing who they are in this world. And that's how people become fans of them, and they end up on these playlists, and they're supporting themselves. So that's pretty long-winded, but that's really the landscape that I'm seeing right now as a producer.
Kwesi, I have a quick follow-up question that I hope is quick. I'm wondering, as we're seeing this sort of convergence or this merger between the creator economy, so folks working on different social media and other kinds of platforms, and the producers, are you starting to hear any interesting new developments in terms of sound? Like, what's the aesthetic impact of these two groups of people talking to one another and kind of feeding off each other?
And can you expand a little bit on that question? So specifically sound, and how does that, what do you mean by the two different groups?
Well, so if I'm a YouTuber or if I'm on TikTok, I'm looking for something specific, right? In terms of making content. How are producers responding to that? Like, what's the sort of aesthetic and artistic side of that? Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. So in the sense of searching for a sound that suits you. If I'm an example, if I'm an artist and I'm trying to collaborate with producers.
Yeah. Are you seeing some interesting new sounds coming up, like bubbling up as producers talk to influencers? Like, is there more interest in like different kinds of beats, different tempos, different kinds of timbres, samples from more vintage sounding samples versus things that sound more like electronic, futuristic? Are there particular instruments that are coming up? Anything like that comes to mind? Because I know you're listening to the community pretty closely.
Right. Yeah. This is one thing that is really amazing by like looking at the landscape and soundscape really of just the digital landscape right now. So many genres are being born and subgenres born out of that, and niches that honestly somehow evolve in hip hop culture in unique ways. Like if you look at TikTok sound, we've never seen sound be overly expanded on the way we're seeing it today. There's like with TikTok, you have one viral sound. It's like everyone uses it to use it as a way to get more eyes to their content. It's like they're fighting for attention. And so, but in doing that, it's also introducing the world. It's kind of like becoming this echo chamber, or like this megaphone to the world, exposing new music to people who never would have heard it. And so you see these TikTok trends happening because people are using this viral sound, like, oh, this lo-fi hip hop thing is used in so many videos, or this one is borrowed and used in so many videos and so many different pieces of content. And so it exposes you to different types of sounds. It's amazing to see that happen with TikTok, but it's not just TikTok. It's Instagram, it's Snapchat, it's YouTube. Folks are being able to discover a lot of different sounds. So like from the hyper pop movement to the lo-fi to chill wave and chill hop, and you're seeing a different type of community and different type of audience being exposed to these things. It's really exciting right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of like beautiful sounds for people that just like timbral pleasures. This is your era. So we're going to take a quick little break, and then we're going to be right back with more discussion about production, fun sounds, and all that good stuff.
Music Tectonic's live events are back. Find out about new tools for succeeding in an ever-changing business at our Seismic Activity online event series. On Wednesday, February 2nd, we're inviting labels and managers to gather for demos from Revelator, the blockchain-based digital asset management platform for creative IP, and Melon, a premier development studio for music and brand experiences in the metaverse. That's February 2nd at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Then, on Wednesday, February 9th, artists and producers come together for demos from Lander, a platform where music makers can create, master, and distribute their music, and Airbit, the online marketplace where producers can sell their beats and artists can buy those beats at a fair price. If you're loving the conversation Tristra's having with Wiedre and Kwesi today, you don't want to miss this. That's February 9th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Find out how to register for seismic activity events at musictectonics.com. Each Wednesday of the month, Seismic Activity convenes a different element of the music tech community for networking, demos, and togetherness with regular events for startup founders, labels and managers, artists and producers, and music tech VIPs. See the upcoming schedule at musictectonics.com. Sign up for the Music Tectonics newsletter to stay up to date. Music Tectonics Seismic Activity is where the music tech community connects online. Everyone who works where music and tech meet is welcome. And now, back to Tristra.
Hey, we're back with Wiedre and Kwesi of Airbit, and we're going to talk a little bit more about producers. And now we had some fun talking a little bit about how producers do their work, some of the aesthetic sides of these new dynamics and developments involving social media platforms and producers. Wiedre, I would love to hear a little bit from your perspective about what adds to a marketplace. So there are several beats marketplaces out there, and I know that Airbit has been really pushing both in public and behind the scenes to set things up for success so that there's a really viable producer path out there, right? So selling beats or not selling beats is just a part of it. Can you tell me a bit about this more holistic vision that you guys have for beats and producers in the sort of wider music business? So publishing and monetization of different kinds. Let's talk about the business side.
Yeah, for sure. So first off, I just want to explain the origin of Airbit. Our founder and CEO, Wasim Kamalichi, he started this for kind of selfish needs. He was a producer, and he saw that in general, producers were underserved. They were sort of, kind of taken advantage of in a way because they would provide beats to artists or labels who generally, if you were not a super producer, you would just give them your work for free. And then, artists and labels would capitalize on it. And once money was made, you get money on the back end as a producer. And a lot of times you weren't even really given credit. And so, we looked at Airbit, or he looked at Airbit, and continue to this day look at Airbit as a champion for this underserved community. And so what Airbit has become is the ability to earn money for your music up front. You can sell or license your beats on Airbit. You can have your own individual store. We have this Infinity store, which is absolutely magical. It allows you to go ahead and create your own polished, professional-looking storefront to sell your beats. And then we also have this robust marketplace on Airbit where you can go ahead and upload your beats and sell to potential buyers, whether it be a label or an artist, a songwriter, a music supervisor, or whatnot. And so, this whole idea of championing the producer is really about giving them their fair shake, giving them credit, giving them the ability to earn up front. And so we didn't just stop at being able to just transact on selling a beat. What we wanted to try to do is find ways to monetize. So one really awesome thing that you get as a subscriber to Airbit is the access to our YouTube monetization. So through the Content ID system, you can automatically distribute your beats to YouTube and then collect on your share of the revenue that YouTube earns by playing your music in videos across YouTube. So that's just an example of how we're looking at this. And we're continuing this whole distribution conversation. We'll be announcing a really big opportunity where you're going to now be able to push your music to YouTube directly, as well as TikTok. And then, AudioMac is out there as well. We're having discussions there. So there's lots of new monetization and distribution options that we're offering that would be a direct to platform distribution just for included in your subscription to Airbit. And so we're looking at ways to sort of distribute, but we're also looking at other things that you could sell, like creative services. We allow sound packs to be sold on the individual stores. Coming soon this year, we'll also allow users, subscribers to go ahead and sell sound packs on the marketplace. So it's really about just opening up whatever, producers, want to be selling or monetizing. You're going to be able to do that on Airbit. And, our goal is to be able to sort of adopt this stuff quickly as soon as an opportunity arises, or better yet, we're innovating ourselves to find ways that, producers can go ahead and monetize up front and not just sort of depend on, recording with an artist and getting publishing royalties.
That's great. So bearing all that in mind, what do you see as the biggest challenge in the space? And this is open to both of you, Judah and Kwesi. What's really the biggest hurdle that you're hoping to help producers clear?
Yeah. Well, I'll speak just kind of from what we see on the platform, and then, I'd love Kwesi to expand on as an individual producer. But, what we're seeing in general is there is a little bit of like an ambiguity, with what it means to be successful. I think a lot of new producers come on and they, expect to put, 5 beats up on the marketplace, and next thing you know, they're going to be making thousands of dollars a month, on these 5 beats. I think what the misconception is just that it takes work. It's a business. You're an entrepreneur as a music producer, and it requires, outside feedback. What I always tell people is that, the producer game is not a zero-sum game. It doesn't mean that if I sell a beat, you won't sell a beat. It means we need to collaborate as a community in order for us to all be successful. And you'll see this. I mean, look at any record credits. You'll see, especially in hip hop, there's like 10 people listed that get songwriter credits on it. And I think we just, as we're coming up, and what we see in our Discord community is that, people think it's really they want to be protective. They don't necessarily always want to get the outside feedback. And what we're seeing now is people are really appreciating it, and we're starting to see success. We see people who are opening up and giving it a try and putting their music out there and getting critiqued and improving not just their business, but also their beat making game. What do you think, Kwesi?
Yeah, man, I almost have nothing to say. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I think that for me, it was from being a producer very early on, being able to say, oh, wow, I can actually make money from this thing that I do upstairs in my room. And I'm going out to actually sell, like, that's cool. And then I started understanding what, word of mouth was, and referrals, and you heard from so-and-so about me. Okay, cool. This is what I charge. And understanding how to get your price point. It really came down to, it's a business. And I think the biggest challenge for producers that are either starting out or getting better is they have to understand that their business prowess has to evolve if they really want to see those sales, if they really want to get to the next level. And really, if you're a part of a community, anyone that even in business, you go to networking events, you connect with communities. That's how you expand your partnerships. That's how you grow as a business. And sometimes when you think that you're a producer, you just make beats, and you don't want to think about the business aspect of it, then you're cutting yourself. You're holding yourself to a standard that is not going to be reciprocating to what you're putting out there. You're going to end up feeling burned out. You're going to end up feeling like, it's the starving musician kind of. That is a myth, and content creators have been showing that. And so it's just a matter of applying yourself and really being like, hey, I got to buckle down and understand, what is music publishing? I have to make it easy for myself. I have to understand, okay, what do I have to look for in contracts? And so these are just kind of key things that I think are really important, and it's a challenge right now for for producers, but it's not a challenge when you have a community that is talking about these things, that are openly asking questions about these things. And I think that's one of the most amazing things about our specific Discord community is I'm seeing folks ask the right questions, and people are giving legitimate and great answers and sharing resources. And it's just powering and motivating a lot of folks to collaborate. And to Judah's point too, collaboration is key as a producer. You're not going to get better unless you're collaborating with others. You're not, and that's a key for business. Partnerships is what makes these major conglomerates, and it's a system. It's a system of different relationships, and that's a key part, and that's one of the challenges, or one of the many challenges. But really, at the end of the day, it's understanding that you have to grow and evolve as a business.
I really love that you both brought up this idea of sort of mutual education and mutual feedback that you're seeing in your community. Can you tell me a little bit about how exactly that unfolds?
Kwesi, do you want to
Sure.
talk about that from the perspective of our Discord community?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's a lot of fun. It really comes down to when you're kind of when you're in a community where there's just like feeds and there's a lot of stuff going on. It really starts from introducing yourself, giving feedback. People are receptive to feedback. When you create something, you want to hear you naturally want to hear people hear what you're doing, and you want them to give you their perspective. And it really starts there. That's where the seed kind of happens. Maybe it's a seed back feedback, right? And like in that sense, it's like you then draw a connection. There's been so many folks that have collaborated in kind of some of our programming and some of our interactive contests and beat submissions. And because they hear somebody's idea, if they're not there on their drums, or they're not there on a certain aspect, but one aspect they're totally fine and they're good, it leads to these collaborations, and these collaborations leads to these collaborative content. And then that's also a relationship. Now you understand another producer and how they approach things. And so it really unfolds in a very organic and authentic way, because it's also set up to do that. That's how the programming is set up. But that's one of the many ways that it happens. People go offline, they DM each other. There's folks that will just drop a piece of content or a piece of a beat where they're like, dude, I'm stuck. Could someone do something to this to just help me think differently? And within a day or two, you get someone who sends you something back and sends you some stems. And it's like, whoa, I would have never gone in that direction. This is dope. And then now you have someone in your Rolodex that you can always reach out to when you're stuck, or when they're stuck, they send you something. I'm actually backed up right now, and I got some stuff to reply to. So that's how it kind of unfolds.
That's great.
Yep.
That's exciting. All right, we're going to take another break here, and then we're going to be right back with Kwesi and Judah and talk a bit more about the future of production and beats marketplaces.
Whoa, the ideas are flying fast on this episode. If you want to follow up on anything we're talking about today, we've made it easy. Head over to musictectonics.com and find this episode on the podcast page. You'll see show notes full of links and a time-stamped roadmap of the conversation. We're not responsible for internet rabbit holes you tumble down in the process. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
All right, we're back. Okay, so my favorite part of this podcast, I have to admit, is getting people to get a little bit sci-fi and to imagine their ideal future in a way, get a little bit utopian and creative, and talk about where they'd love to see things in 5 years. And I'd love if you'd both answer this question. It can be specifically about a beats marketplace like Airbit, or it can be bigger, broader things from the music business writ large. So share your thoughts. Let's start with you, Judah. Sorry to make you go first. It's a hard one. Where would you love to see the music business in 5 years? What would you love to see in terms of music listening, music making, all that good stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like expanding on what's happening. I think Spotify is kind of a leader in this space, right? Because they're using data and technology to serve up, really bespoke content. And so I look at discovery as being kind of the biggest obstacle to climb, especially like if we zero into Airbit and look at what we're trying to do. If you take a look at our homepage, if you visit airbit.com, you'll see we've got this little tab in our nav bar called Search by Sound. And what that's meant to do is it's meant to analyze a reference track, strip out vocals if there are any, match BPM if you'd like, and use that reference to search our entire database of beats to surface beats that sound similar. And so the reason I bring that up is because what it's doing is it's providing opportunity for anyone and everyone who is a creator. And so if you live in a small village in, remote Portugal, and you're a beat maker, you'll still surface in a result based on, this AI technology. It doesn't mean you have to be a top producer or a most listened producer or have the most accolades. What it's doing is it's leveling the playing field. And I feel like this is kind of the thing that like is really what it's about. It's like it's a derivative of the long tail of this idea of people finding their people. Creators you don't have to be Justin Bieber or Timbaland or these people who are serving a mass market, thankful to the media that promotes them. What I'm thinking the future is, what I loved, the utopia is people finding their people, creators finding their audience, and being able to be successful making music their career by being able to find their audience. And so that's what we're hoping to do. That's what we're heads down focused on right now, is how do we make discovery seamless? How do we make it non-subjective, more objective, more, hey, I like this sound and I want to find something similar to this sound, and I want to be able to collaborate with people who kind of share the same sensibility, the same musicality. And that's where I think the utopia is. It's about helping people find their audience, and leaving the artistic part of this to the creator. Like I see some of the technology that are like, making full tracks with AI, and I'm not necessarily saying it's bad, but I like the idea of human creativity and the mistakes. People listen to vinyl because of the realness of it. And so I really think that it's about just the connection, the networking, and bringing people together.
Awesome. Kwesi, what are you thinking about in your music tech utopia?
My brain's about to explode right now. You set me up. You set me up right now with this question. Don't tell me about utopias for producers. Well, I think Judah always beats me to the punch when he goes first. But it's really how I'm really looking at this, and I think this is also based off of reflecting on what's happened in the tech industry. One of the things that I'm really looking at is the fact that on the horizon, every time a new technology comes out, it becomes another medium, a sub-medium. Much homage to the late great Marshall McLuhan, and like some of the most amazing writing about what the digital age is going to look like from the 1960s and 70s, just a real innovative person, and just seeing how things are coming about today. It's like the concept of the global village, the fact that you can post something and anyone in the world can have access to it and see what you're posting, and the way the internet has changed the world. And when we look at Web 3.0, we look at this concept of decentralized platforms, or and AI and what's happening. It's what I see for the utopia is producers are going to be artists, creators, and are going to be fairly compensated for the value that they are providing to the world. It's like there's not much content you can watch or experience without experiencing some form of music, sound design, or composition for your auditory response. And that's how you kind of conjure up the right emotions and create an emotional connection to whatever you're trying to communicate. And that kind of has not that's been overlooked to see who's actually powering that aspect of the content and how important is that really. So I think AI is definitely going to allow for folks to look at the sound. What is the quality and where is the value there? Judah brings up search by sound. The reason why search by sound is so unique is because it's not about your accolades. It's not about you being, the greatest amount, you get the greatest amount of views. It's not about you being this super producer. It's about the sound. It's about the focus on what are the frequencies, what are the combination of frequencies that you're putting together artistically for it to land, for someone to feel inspired enough to create something special and something unique and authentic. And I'm really honored to be able to collaborate with Airbit in this sense, because it's definitely a perspective. And some companies overlook this. Some folks that are thinking about the future, they overlook this innovative concept, is the authenticity. We need to create draw a really clear connection to the sound and leave all the BS to the sides. Like, you don't need to shuck and jive just to be like, hey, look at me, my attention. Mm-hmm. Like, no, we want to build a structure that allows people to be like, no, you search for what you're looking for, and it doesn't matter who it's coming from. If it's good and it's for you, it's good and it's for you.
Well, hey, Kwesi, it's also not if it's good, it's if that person likes it. So it's like, it's really about, did that person who's looking for that music, is that the music that they were looking for? That's it. It's all subjective at this point, if it's good or not good. At least, this is the way we're thinking about it. It's just, can we put 2 people or 3 people or 10 people together that want that have the same musical vision?
I love that you're moving past the attention economy, Kwesi. I mean, that's the only downside of producers kind of stepping into the limelight a little bit, is the sort of obligation to have to capture attention. Whereas a lot of producers, maybe they want to be out there in front, but some people want to just make really good music, and have other people hear it. So I love the idea of it not being about the attention or like those sort of maneuvers, but just like, is the sound the one I'm looking for?
Right. And it's value. It's like, whoever seeks the value and they see that, oh, this person produces this really obscure type of style that I really like. Oh, can I find something similar to this? And that's one thing that's amazing. It's like being able to pull from another example, bring it here, and discover things that sound similar, because that is so sound focused, and it's the utility factor of it, and then we're gonna see what's gonna happen, and then we're gonna migrate to this metaverse and what's happening in this kind of virtual world of people connecting all over the world. There's so much here. Sound packs, AI generated to help support you feel inspired. So being able to generate a beat with AI, it's like not good, it's not there, but those neural networks and those engines, they're training on different models. So the more it's used, the better it'll get. So in the next 5 to 10 years, it's just going to keep getting better and better the more it's used, and the more it's used creatively. And I think that's what disruption and innovation really looks like. And it's going to be really exciting looking at the next 5 to 10 years.
Awesome. I agree. Thanks so much, both of you, for talking to me about all these things. And yeah, it's been a real pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome.
Likewise.
Thanks for listening to Music Tectonics. If you like what you hear, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. We have new episodes for you every week. Did you know you can dig deeper into all our episodes with the show notes at musictectonics.com. While you're there, look for the latest about our annual conference, sign up for our newsletter to get updates, or get the Music Tectonics app for music tech news. Everything we do explores seismic shifts that shake up music and technology the way the Earth's tectonic plates cause quakes and make mountains. Connect with Music Tectonics on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and find me, Dmitry Vitsa, if you can spell it, on LinkedIn. Bye-bye.
You're listening to Music Tectonics.